So this title doesn't really scream horror. Maybe something more romantic, maybe, or something like that. Romantic comedy. I don't know. But I'm talking about it, so it must be horror. So let's see if the IMDb plot can fill us in on what is going on here. When Diana wakes from a coma with memory loss, she and her husband seek experimental treatments at a remote facility. As the procedures intensify, their marriage is put to the test, and Diana begins to question her husband's true motives. All right, so this one is special film, definitely weird, and definitely, yeah, definitely got some weird stuff here. You guys know if you've followed some of my reviews. When I hit the weird button, I don't know. But yeah, some strange stuff happening here, and they're not going to be too quick to show you what is going on here, but it's going to end in some weirdness here. So this one is a Shudder original, recently released. So we'll try definitely to not spoil this. I don't want to spoil this. I want you to go through it the same way I did. So, whether you like it or not, in the end, you at least can go through that experience that I did and finding out what is happening here, and then what eventually happens. So yeah, and as I mentioned at the top, with the name, it almost seems like it is a romantic movie or something like that, and in a way, it is. It is about a marriage and about a couple, and the way they start and the way it kind of ends. It really is all about that and a true test of marriage and love and so forth. Um, Mixed with a weird thing going on here, and some horror in it as well. So there's definitely horror in here. There's definitely weirdness in here. I'm looking at IMDb. It says comedy, fantasy, horror, sci-fi, thriller. Yeah, I would say that's I don't know about fantasy. I guess whatever. But definitely there's a mix of all that in here. Um, but yeah, so what what it says kind of in the IMDb plot is kind of what it is. We have a couple here. We're going to see maybe some flashback scenes of them at points in the movie to kind of get a grasp of their relationship. But you're also going to see their relationship here at this facility. After the incident that happened, Diana doesn't have clear memory of what happened and the incident that happened that put her here. That is part of the process of her in her recovery. So it is a part recovery mentally and part recovery physically. There are things physically she can and can't do yet, and definitely a mental part of it because she can't really remember everything and even remember everything about her relationship with her husband. Um, so we're going to kind of go on that journey with them. So you're going to see a little bit of about their relationship, as we're watching it, and then maybe see some flashback moments of the relationship in the past, and some of the interesting conversations they have. So, it is all at the end of the day really a test of their marriage, and so forth. Kind of, I keep staring at it. It keeps saying comedy there. I don't know. I guess you could laugh at certain things that happen with, especially when you revealed the weirdness of this film and what's going on here. I guess you could laugh at that. There might be a sequence or two, but I don't really see this as a comedy. I guess, and maybe in some of the moments that they show you with the couple, in their flashbacks, maybe if you want to laugh at those moments too, maybe. But overall, I wouldn't say this is a horror comedy, and I don't know that it leans too much on the comedy, but whatever. Um, so, you're going to get, her going through this process But then she's going to hit a point while she's there in this facility where she starts seeing stuff. And she's not sure whether she's seeing it in reality or she's kind of in her head. And again, remember, she's coming from a coma, so she doesn't, maybe she herself is still a little confused about what's going on. And, some of that might be true, some of it might not. Some of it might have to do with the facility itself. And I think in some of those elements that you see and what she sees are going to give you some of the horror elements early on. She's going to see a little, just some things that are just maybe a little bit odd, maybe clues to what is going on, and then maybe some other things that are more tilted to kind of be more just horror for the audience, so you'll just kind of have to navigate that. But definitely pay attention to what is going on here. Pay attention to, her interactions with different people. The clues are around. I don't know that you'll figure out exactly, but there are certain clues that are there. And eventually, you will see some other people that work there. You will see another couple that comes in there, and to kind of see that. And then, we'll eventually, kind of delve into her, wanting to know more about what is going on here, really, as she begins to kind of recover a bit, and recover a bit more. So I don't want to get too much into, anything more than that. Like I said, all the weirdness and bizarreness or whatever, I want to leave to you guys, for you guys to watch, enjoy, not enjoy, say this is weird, what the hell's going on here, and all that good stuff that was going through my head as I watched this craziness evolve. Definitely not what I expected. Not that I had any expectations one way or the other for this film. Even though I said this for another review earlier. Even though I shared the information for it, really didn't dive into it or look at the trailer or anything like that. Saw a few, kind of interesting comments on Twitter, and that's kind of what convinced me to kind of go forward and watch the film at the end of the day. So I really didn't have expectations anyway, here or there. But definitely some weird stuff. So if you, kind of at the beginning and you're like, besides those flashbacks, you're kind of wondering, where the horror is here, whatever, it's going to get into it. And it's not necessarily going to be, huge on blood and guts horror, but just more of a horror in the circumstance of what is truly going on here in this facility. And obviously, I think when I say facility at the beginning, maybe, that gives you a clue that, they are somewhere where something else is happening. And yeah, there's stuff is happening here. So it is going to get a little bit crazy and so forth in that regard as well. And I'm just kind of trying to see. Yeah, it is just short of 2 hours, and I think, you kind of feel that. There's no hurry to kind of unveil what it is that's going on here, but then when they do, they're in no hurry to kind of end the weirdness that's happening here. So it's definitely going to take its pace, and I think, you might definitely feel those almost 2 hours of film here. But again, I think at the end of the day, they do a good job of kind of giving you that, I guess at the beginning, it's going to be, you're going to have to decide, are you going to root for this couple? Are you not? Are you going to root for her? Are you going to root for him? Are you going to root for both of them? And, kind of, as the film goes on, they're going to mix that in. You're going to have moments where you might root for her, or you just don't care if she, recovers. And then for him, and there's going to be moments where you're probably not going to like him, and then maybe moments that you will like him. And, and then just the way it ends for them both. You'll get to see if they're, really together or not, or what is happening here. So I think, they do a good job of that, of putting a marriage to a test in a very different and odd way, in an odd circumstance, but also will show you to the extreme points that people will go, and what people will do for love, and will love really conquer in the end. So definitely some weirdness there to get through and so forth, but definitely an interesting story when you kind of like take maybe a step back from some of that weirdness and see overall, where it started, where it ended, and so forth. But definitely some weird stuff happening here. And, I guess I should have paid more attention to the poster as I'm also looking at that right now, and just, should have known that weirdness was coming. I didn't really imagine, what this poster meant, and what is happening here. But then after watching the film and knowing, the weirdness or whatever, now the poster makes a little bit more sense. And, I don't know why the poster was telling me to watch this movie as well. But there was just something, I don't know about it that I was kind of curious about as well. So, I don't know. So I guess I didn't really tell you guys a whole lot because I want you guys to experience that weirdness for yourselves. So you're just going to have to, because I'm not going to tip you off to what it is. And hopefully no one else does, and you just watch the movie and enjoy the weirdness that's to come. So with that, I think I'm going to give it 2.5 pools of blood, somewhere in between. Liked the film, didn't hugely love it, didn't hate it. Again, because of some of the weirdness and whatever. But definitely, can kind of maybe appreciate the links here that they went to show a marriage and what it goes through in a horror way. So with that, again, that's going to be 2.5 pools of blood out of 5. So with that, horrorsquadreviews.blogspot.com, so you can find all my reviews written in video. Certainly tons of video reviews for a while now, so you can like, subscribe, and do everything else that everybody here on YouTube does. But if not, no worries, it is okay. I thank you for your time regardless. Twitter, Facebook information down below. You can join me there and tell me that, yes, the film was weird, just like you said. Or, I didn't find that weird. That's, whatever. We've seen that in horror before. I don't know what you're complaining about or worried about. Whatever. Or you can do that in the comment section as well. Feel free to throw that out there. Or if you also thought it was a bit strange as well, like I did, let me know and confirm my thoughts here with this one. So with that, I will catch you on the next review, horror fans.